At $10,000 saved, you make $700 a year doing nothing. At $100,000 saved, that same math gives you $7,000 a year while you sleep. Same effort, same percentage, wildly different life. And today, I want to show you exactly why that number changes everything. But first, let me talk about where most people actually are right now. You've been saving consistently, moving money every payday like clockwork, and the number grows, technically, but it feels like pushing something heavy uphill, something that just won't budge the way you expected. You said no to the trip, you cut back on eating out, you made the responsible choice over and over again, and the feedback you got back was almost nothing. Here's the thing. That's not a discipline problem. That's not a mindset problem. That's a math problem, and it has a very specific explanation. There is a point where the slope changes, where the momentum you've been manually creating starts creating itself. Most people quit right before that point, and I don't want that to be you. My name is Ricky, and I spend way too much time thinking about why money feels the way it feels before it finally works the way it's supposed to. If you're saving, trying, but quietly wondering if any of this is actually going anywhere, stay with me. This is for you specifically. Subscribe if this helps. Thumbs up if something lands. It genuinely helps more people find this who need to hear it. All right, let's get into it. Let me show you what actually happens at $100,000. $10,000, 7% annual return, end of year, you made $700. Okay, real money, but it's not changing your life. Now, same return, same percentage, but your base is $100,000. End of year, you made $7,000. $7,000. That's a car payment. That's 3 months of groceries for a family. That's a real vacation you didn't have to stress about paying for. And here's the part that should hit you. You did nothing to earn it. You just let it sit. That's the shift. That's what changes at 100,000. And here's what makes it even more interesting. Stick with me on this. The second 100,000 takes almost half the time as the first, because now your base is doing part of the work for you every single month, whether you add anything or not. The snowball stopped rolling uphill, and it's starting to find its own momentum. So, how do you actually get there? 3 levers. And here's what's interesting. One of them is the one almost everybody ignores. The first lever is offense. What goes in? And offense doesn't mean drastic. It means consistent. An extra $150 a month invested, 7% average return, 10 years. That's over $25,000 from $150 a month. Offense is quiet, but it compounds. The second lever is defense, what stays in. And this one is sneaky because lifestyle inflation doesn't knock, it just moves in. You get a raise, the apartment feels a little small, the car feels a little dated, the dinners get slightly nicer, and your savings rate didn't move at all even though your income did. Defense means keeping your lifestyle just slightly behind your income. Not forever, just long enough to build the base that starts working for you. If you prevent just $200 a month of lifestyle creep, you hit $100,000 roughly 18 months faster. 18 months from just holding the line. Now, the third lever, the one most people skip entirely, efficiency. This means making sure the money you're already saving is working as hard as possible while it sits there. A high-yield savings account instead of a regular one, a Roth IRA, making sure you're not leaving free employer match sitting on the table. These moves aren't exciting. Nobody makes viral content about maxing out a retirement account. But the difference over 20 years is not a small number. It's a life-changing number. Efficiency is boring, and it might be the most powerful lever of the 3. Let me show you what these 3 levers actually look like in real life. 2 people, same income, same starting point, same age. Person A pulls all 3 levers, consistently, gets to 100,000 in about 6 years, then eases up a little. Life is happening, they're not as aggressive anymore. Person B pulls one lever occasionally, stops and starts, never quite breaks through.
10 years later, person A has significantly more wealth, not because they were smarter, not because they earned more, because their base crossed the threshold, and then the base started doing the work. Here's what changes psychologically at that point. You stop thinking about saving as something you have to do, and you start thinking about it as something that's working for you while you live your life. That shift in how you see yourself is not small. You stop being someone who is trying to save money, and you start being someone who has assets working for them quietly in the background. And that identity changes the decisions you make downstream. The way you negotiate your salary, the way you think about a big purchase, the way you respond to a financial setback. It all moves differently when you see yourself as a builder. And honestly, that shift starts happening before you hit the number. It starts happening the moment you understand why the number matters. So, let me talk directly to where you might be right now. If you're in the early stages, if it feels slow, if it feels like the effort isn't matching the result, you're not behind. You're just on the uphill part of the curve, where the snowball is still building weight. And every dollar you put in right now, every month you stay consistent, you're not just adding money, you're shortening the distance to where the slope changes. Here's the truth about why most people don't get there. It's not that they ran out of money, it's that they ran out of belief. They looked at the timeline and decided the payoff wasn't worth the patience. And that's the only real mistake you can make in this whole process. Missing a month isn't failure. Having a setback isn't failure. Life happens, and that's real. Quitting because the feedback felt too slow, that's the only thing that actually stops the compounding. Because compounding doesn't care about your motivation. It doesn't check in on how you're feeling about it. It just works on whatever base you give it for as long as you let it run. You started building wealth, which already puts you ahead of most people who just think about it and never start. The question was never whether this works. The question is whether you give it enough time to show you. I think you will. If this helped you see any part of this differently, subscribe. It genuinely helps this reach people who need to hear it. Drop a comment and tell me where you are on this journey, whether you're just starting or you're close to that first 100,000. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.